أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. It is only in Allah's remembrance that hearts find peace and tranquility and rest. A believer is someone who's always remembering Allah. So a believer is always in a state of tranquility, even though he's working hard or she's working hard. When we look at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, in the middle of the battlefield, after he'd seen his most beloved one slaughtered before his eyes, after he knew what the enemy was about to do to his household and his family members, imprisoning them and burning their tents and looting their belongings, he knew all of that. Yet it's related that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, as well as some of his companions, not only Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, because if we follow the Ahlul Bayt, we will become like them, of course, to our own capacity. It's related that the harder things became on the day of Ashura, the more calm and radiant and composed they became. So this dhikr, this remembrance of Allah, which brings itmi'nan, that state of tranquility within the heart, it's not laziness. No, the believer works harder than anyone else. The believer sees the challenge, he sees the enemy, he sees the difficulty, and in that moment, while he's striving against these barriers, he's at peace in his heart. That is a true believer. That is the result of true Iman. So these are some examples with which we can test ourselves. Are we this way? And if we are not this way, then we need to realize that our problem is actually in our Iman. And this is the point of these sessions, dear brothers and sisters. You know, we're not here only to give some theory, to increase our knowledge. We learn in order to act upon what we've learned. And that is how we become close to Allah and fulfill our perfection and potential as human beings. We're doing these sessions so we can act upon these teachings. Now, if Iman were to be different to what the Quran is saying, the Quran is saying what? The Quran is saying Iman comes with amal. If you're a believer, you will do certain things and you'll abstain from other things. If that wasn't the case, if it was possible to have Iman, true faith, and still live however you wanted, and still follow your desires, and still no change to take place in your lifestyle, if that was possible, then we would have to accept that Iblis himself, the greatest enemy of God Almighty and of mankind, the devil himself, is a mu'min, is a believer. Because when Iblis refused to bow to Adam at the command of Allah the Exalted, what happened? Allah spoke to him and he spoke to Allah. How can someone who is speaking to Allah not believe in Allah? If Iman means just knowing that Allah exists, that's enough to be a believer, then Iblis is a bigger believer than all the pious people in the world, because he's spoken to Allah directly. He spoke to Allah and he swore by Allah's izzah, His tremendousness and His might. And he spoke about the day of judgment. He said to Allah, give me a time until the day of judgment. He's acknowledging that Allah exists because he's speaking to him. He's acknowledging that there is a day of judgment. Yet the Quran says what? وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Iblis was from the disbelievers. He didn't have Iman. If Iman means just saying that Allah exists and there's a day of judgment, then Iblis is a greater believer than many of our prophets, alayhimus salam, because he spoke directly to Allah. So it's clear that Iman is not only belief in the heart, it's something which has to be seen in actions to be real and true and complete. This was Unplugged, freeing your mind wherever you are.